to kill the ego, you would have to be willing to be powerless. You would have to be willing to be vulnerable. This is how you silence or kill the ego, because the ego doesn't like those things at all. The ego wants to be right. The ego is not going to look stupid in front of nobody. The ego wants to win the argument, especially if there's people around. You ain't going to talk to me in your kind of way. Come on. Now, how many times have we seen a couple and the woman might be very loud and outrageous and disrespectful in front of folks? And the male, he's doing well. It takes a look.
I love you, I want you, I need you. Let's maintain our sacred waters.
Here we are again. What is up? We are with the Cartwrights. If you guys did not have a chance to check out Step 1 devotion, go back and take a look at sacred waters and how you can devote your time to your marriage. I'll make sure I'll put the link in the description. But it's me, Dr. Webb, and this is my hubby. And today we are talking about step 2 of deepening the waters, right? Is your marriage water sacred? And what do you do to ensure that it's sacred? And we are going to deepen our waters on today. So, that D in deepen is devotion. And we talked about that, but now we're going to talk about that first E, which is empathy. And we've been hearing a whole lot about empathy, right?
Yes.
Especially online when we're talking about living that soft life or mental health. We are very conscious now in these days about mental health and showing empathy to yourself and to other people. And so what does empathy mean to y'all?
Well, empathy means by validating and understanding your spouse, understanding each other, feelings, and how they feel towards each other. And I guess we sympathize with each other.
Being aware of their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions.
No, that's really good. And I just want to make sure that we clarify, because there is a difference between empathy and sympathy, right?
Yeah.
And when you have sympathy for someone, that means you feel sorry for them. That means it's like sort of like this pity that you have on a person. But when you empathize, that means you can see a person's humaneness. I understand that if I was in the same situation, I would probably feel the same way, know exactly how you feel, but from one human being to the another, I can put myself in your shoes. And if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't know how I would respond. I wouldn't know how I would feel. But sure enough, just know that I am with you and that I am connecting with you in your pain. Yes. Right? What are your thoughts about empathy?
I was going to say the same thing, but I would say something differently because I don't want to repeat it. But recognizing another one's perspective. Recognizing and even validating another's position.
Right, that's good.
Do you have the ability to come out of yourself enough to see somebody else's point of view?
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that, right?
That's validation right there.
You have the ability.
Yeah. But break it down. When you talk about come outside of yourself, what does that mean?
That means you have to actually put aside your point of view, your opinion, whatever it is that you firmly believe in. You have to be willing to put that to the side. Come out of it. Come out of yourself. That's important. Come out of self to see another person's point of view.
Come out of your shell.
Come out of your shell. Come out of your feelings. Come out of your bag. Right? Get out of your own thoughts, your desires, what you want, your next response, the point you are trying to make. A lot of times our arguments as married couples come from because we want our points across.
That's it. Right.
Yeah.
Or we want the last say.
And
it's not going to work.
the last word. The last. But what power does that give us if we have the last say?
None.
But what power do we think we get?
Wow. Last power. For me, I think I would feel more satisfied. I get a self, what is this?
Satisfaction?
Satisfaction.
Yes.
Satisfaction. I got the last words. I don't care what else you say.
I shut her up.
Yeah.
Wait, I won.
You win, and then you gonna lose your man,
Right.
your marriage, your
Right.
family, right?
The famous one is, I said what I had to say, and I'm done.
You know what? As we're talking about this conversation, the E also aligns with when we talk about coming out of self. There's some ego in there.
Ego.
You see a little bit of ego in there because when you
shucks.
said I feel self-satisfied that I got the last word and that's it. There's a lot of ego-centeredness in there, and having empathy cause it bucks up against ego, and ego doesn't like that too much.
You have to kill your ego to be empathetic. Especially with your spouse.
Or at least silence.
Yeah.
Right? Because for some of us, we need to kill our ego.
So how would we kill our ego?
No,
The silence. How would we do that?
That's a really excellent question. And I know for me, personally, this is just me, I can't do anything without prayer.
Ooh.
Right? I don't have the ability to die, the ability to shut down, to shut up. And if I do, it's very inauthentic. It's like if I'm not talking or I'm not communicating or if I'm not expressing myself, it's either one, I've prayed and I asked the Lord to give me the strength that I need to do that, or two, something's brewing underneath.
Right.
And I have to recognize, is something brewing underneath? Because even though if I'm not saying it out of my mouth, I could be thinking it.
Yeah.
My feelings and emotions are all stirred up, and it's going to manifest in some way. Either I'm not going to hug you, I'm not going to kiss you, I'm not going to want you to touch me, I'm not going to spoon you when we land in the bed at night. I may brush up against you and not say excuse me. It manifests in so many ways. I want to make love.
Right.
Let's be real here, right? And being able to surrender in some way
There we go.
That's good.
is how you kill or silence that ego. Now, what are you surrendering to? We can surrender to, I want to deepen the waters of my marriage.
You have to just surrender to something.
You got to surrender to something. I surrender to my marriage and the fact that I want my marriage. I surrender to, I am tired of us hitting a brick wall. I surrender to the fact that I'm crying or I'm angry or I'm upset or that we haven't made love in weeks. I surrender to the fact that I want peace in my house and I don't want tension. I surrender to the fact that we are swimming in cold waters. We are so emotionally distant and disconnected. I surrender to the fact that I need my spouse.
That's the bottom line. Yes.
You kill your ego or you silence your ego when you surrender. Now, what are you going to surrender to is the question, right? And whatever you surrender to, that means that you are putting that above your wants and your desires. What is your thoughts? Yeah, go
So
ahead.
surrendering, not being prideful. No, apologizing and being sincere about it. That's the only way it's going to work. Communicating
That's right.
and being honest about it.
That's right.
But you have to be honest when you apologize. Surrender to it.
And the other component of apologizing is not shifting blame,
Oh,
not giving I apologize, but
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
Not, well, I did this, but I apologize, but what about what you did?
Or because. Yes.
An apology is truly taking full ownership of your thoughts, your actions, whatever, your behaviors, and recognizing how it impacted your spouse and not repeating the action.
Yes. It sounds, apology and empathy sounds similar, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But before
it
you
does.
go on, I wanted to go back to the question of killing or silencing the ego. When you have an ego, what is it? There's a sense of power that you have with the ego, a sense of control. It would seem to kill the ego, you would have to be willing to be powerless. You would have to be willing to be vulnerable. This is how you silence or kill the ego, because the ego doesn't like those things at all. The ego wants to be right. The ego is not going to look stupid in front of nobody. The ego wants to win the argument, especially if there's people around. You ain't going to talk to me any old kind of way. Come on. Now, how many times have we seen a couple and the woman might be very loud and outrageous and disrespectful in front of folks? And the male, he's doing well. And it takes a look who's around, ego. And then he begins to say, well, look, woman, you ain't going to talk to me. Vice versa. You have a couple, and it's the man who's being very loud and outrageous and disrespectful, and the wife is trying her best to be humble. And then after a while, she looks around, and the ego
There you go.
kicks in.
I just think it's the hardest thing to do is to speak what you really want to speak out of love. And you could sit there and think, oh man, I just want to tell her I love her. But that point comes where you say, but I'm not going to do that because she might, and then those thoughts come in. But the simple thing to break down a lot of arguments and all, just feel that respect for another person and telling them. Sometimes you might not even be wrong, but you take that initiative to say, listen, baby, I was wrong. And it will bring more good than it will bad.
Yes.
That's what I think.
That you're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Sometimes I know with us, when we were going through our situation, we would be afraid to speak our mind because we'd be afraid of the response.
That's a good point. That's
Yeah.
a
Being
very
afraid
good
of response, we should not feel that way being a married couple. We should not feel that way. That's another thing that married couples should work on. We are working on that.
But that's really simply being vulnerable. And I don't want to say simply as if it's easy. However, what you guys are describing is that vulnerability. And when you are able to be vulnerable with one another, that's where the emotional connection comes in. That's where you're able to see one another. And that's where the empathy comes, where you can put yourself in your partner's shoes and understand their feelings and their thoughts and where they are coming from. But if you are not vulnerable with one another, then how can you get there? And someone has to take the first step.
And for me, it was the feeling of rejection. And if I say something and you reject me, it's like, oh man, I'm just done. So I want to speak on it. You know, and I told my wife once before, I said, I want to, but I'm not going to speak on it because I don't want you to say no.
Ooh.
That's powerful.
That is very, I don't want you to say no.
And that goes back to what you were saying.
Absolutely.
Afraid of the other person's
Yeah.
response. You don't want to know. You don't know what the person's going to say. You don't know how you're going to deal with it if they say it.
Right. Then you don't want to have an argument because I'm not argumentative. So what I would do, I would walk out, but that's not the right thing to do.
Either, right?
Don't just walk out and just leave it because it's still there.
Yeah.
So you have to talk about it. That's where empathy. You have to empathy with each other. With each other.
That's interesting. It makes me think about when we put down that ego, right? by surrendering to whatever it is that's very important to us, then we can become vulnerable. And when we become vulnerable, we can see each other. And then we can connect with one another. Non-judgmental environment. And a part of being empathetic with our spouses is creating that safe, brave space. It has to be safe and it has to be brave so that your spouse knows there is nothing that you can say to me that's going to make me judge you or reject you. And that took us a long time. And even now, I would say to him, I got something to tell you, but I don't want you to judge me. Sometimes I feel like a little kid when I say that. I'm really being vulnerable just saying it to him that way. Because I'm like preparing him. And that's my way of letting him know I'm ready to get naked.
Put your ego in check.
I'm ready to become vulnerable. I'm ready to open myself up wide. And that's what we say. And we suggest that couples have code language. Whatever it fits within each marriage, that's going to be completely different. But have that code language that lets the other person know, hey, I'm ready to go here.
Right. Okay.
And I need you to come here with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead, baby.
No, it gets the other person in position, because that's what it is. Like marriage is for the creative, for those who have courage. Because oftentimes you find yourself in places as you are building and you're going through those different phases in a place where you may not feel safe. So you have to clear that up. Make it safe. Create code language so that you can feel safe when you express yourself to your significant other, to your husband or to your wife. You need to say some type of code. I'm getting ready to get vulnerable here. So that the person mind can easily mentally adjust, psychologically adjust, emotionally adjust, that they can be in position to receive whatever.
That's a good one because here we go. All right, couples. I remember I used to say, babe, I need to talk to you. Instead of him saying, it'll be, okay, what is it now?
And that automatically closes you up.
It puts him into a shell. I'm ready to talk, but he gets like, what is going to be bad? Instead of assuming anything, that's a good point. Get prepared for what we get ready to discuss.
Right.
Instead of assuming, what's going on?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
All right, negative.
Right.
We don't want negative. We want the positive.
We want
But
the
let's be prepared to be ready to talk.
Code language is good.
Code language.
Code
So
language.
it's
It's called code language,
I
and that
love
code
it.
language deepens your marriage waters.
Yes.
And there's even code language that you can do via text.
Yes.
Like we have a couple of codes between us, and it's just like, oh, as soon as we say one of those codes, oh, I got you. All right, and then we make that necessary adjustment. And that deepens our waters where he's not feeling a certain way. I make whatever adjustment, and then vice versa. And we have another one too, because my husband, he doesn't like to talk like when he first wake up, because most times I am up before he is, right?
I'm not in my best.
Literally, I am probably up hours. Even I may be laying in the bed, I'm awake.
Right.
So I done already had my thoughts, and I done thought about it. And so I'm just kind of waiting for him to get up so I can talk to him and tell him what I've been thinking about.
You know, that's amazing that you said that.
I just got up. As soon as he opened his eyes, I was like,
I keep saying we are similar because that.
now I give him about 15, 20, 30 30 minutes, depending on if we have anything going on that day.
But it's still going down no matter what.
But wait, no. But I do say, talk.
Yes.
I'm like, babe, can I say something right now? It took us a long. And so it's so funny because he knows that I'm being mindful.
Right.
And you can see him making the adjustment. She want to talk.
Because you can tell, because my wife has facial expressions that she's not aware of. She's not aware she's
I do not play poker at
she
all.
does have a poker face.
No.
Because she doesn't know I can read the face, man. This ain't gonna be good. You want to give me a warning? What's it about?
He don't say that. He's like, you want to give me a little heads up here? Yes, it is so funny. But it's like, you have to like grow and develop into this. We didn't have this language, this understanding the first 5 years. And even though we were doing the authentic love experiences, we were coming from the perspective of everything that we did wrong in our prior relationships and what we learned from doing things wrong. Right?
Yes.
And so that's where the premise of the authentic love experience. And then loving each other in spite of the past trauma. He had his trauma, I had my trauma. And then of course we talked about the 6 dimensions. So when you fast forward to now, and here we are 11 years later, married, have gone through multiple things in our relationship, we understand that sacred waters are like, that's it. That's the paradigm. That's the way we look at our marriage. That's the way we view our marriage. And how can we deepen the waters? And when you think about an ocean is boundless. It's vast, right? And it has depth to it. What is the ocean like components of your marriage? And how do you get deeper and deeper into the boundless love that you guys share? Because your love can be boundless. And I'm not talking about abuse of any kind. Physical, emotional, sexual, financial, neglect, abandonment. I'm not talking about that. But when you have 2 people who have made the decision to love one another and to be in it for life, you can experience boundless love. But it takes work. And that part of the work on today that we have discussed today is empathy. And making sure that you silence your ego through surrender. And whatever it is that you are deciding to surrender to, we surrender to God. But you gotta surrender to something greater than yourself. And is it your spouse? Is it the marriage? Is it the vision? Is it the commitments that you made? Is it your family? Is it the children? Do you guys have businesses together? What are you surrendering to? Do that. Put your ego to the side. Love on your spouse. See your spouse. Put yourself in your spouse's shoes. That is so huge. It's so important because there are major differences. I'm married to a black man in America. There are certain things that I have to do just based on the neighborhood that we live in to ensure that we are safe.
Then you need to break that down, but maybe that could be another discussion.
It could be another discussion. And the reason why is because it's like, and I'm not an arguer, but I gotta be very careful that I'm not out in the street getting into petty arguments.
That's what I mean. You had to break it.
I'm not gonna get into no petty argument, nor does my husband have to quote unquote defend me.
Right.
Now I'm not talking about flat out disrespect. I'm not talking about flat out disrespect. But I'm not gonna run home and be like, hey, such and such says, such and such, you need to go to the. I'm not putting my husband in harm's way over a petty argument. You right, you good, my bad.
Right.
Because I, as a woman, all I have is this. My husband goes out and gets into something, someone could possibly die.
Yes.
The way men don't argue.
No.
They're not going to do that.
No.
And when you're talking about men defending their wives, their children, their families, their property.
Comes from another part in them.
Right. It's like another part of that man rises up. My husband does not have to quote unquote defend me. I know he loves me, and I know if anything goes down, he has my back. I'm not going to put him in a situation because somebody said something to me, because somebody called me out my name, whatever.
You see, that's another side or another category or another part of empathy.
Yes.
Being conscious of what you do, of what you say, and how you say it, in the way that it will, being conscious of what you do and how it would affect your loved one,
Yes.
your wife.
Yes.
If I make this move, how is that going to affect my wife?
Yes.
How is it going to affect my husband?
Yes.
If what you have to be conscious of everything. That's another side, because you're empathizing. You're recognizing another person's position, who your wife is, your wife, how your husband is, their mindset. Don't do things that will agitate that. Don't
That's
disturb
right.
this group. This is sacred water. It's come
Yes.
hell of high
That's
water.
right.
We're going to protect this. So
That's
that means we have to
right.
do some extra stuff now. We
That's
have to
right.
constantly come outside ourselves to everything that we do. We have to see how is it going to affect our
Right.
significant other.
And I know my husband is very overprotective of his wife. Why would I put him in a situation knowing that he's overprotective of me? That's not showing empathy at all.
No.
That's what I would not do.
Right.
I'm not doing that to my husband. I'm just not
No.
gonna do that. No.
No. And I had to grow from that. And it was my husband taught me that. Because we were in a situation with another gentleman, and I was like, this man is being very disrespectful. He's not just disrespecting me, but he's also disrespecting you.
Right.
And my husband was like, what do you want me to do? You want me to go fight the dude? He's like, what is it that you really want me to do in this situation? And when at first I'm like, well, I want you to go and say something.
Right.
And my husband always says, well, let's play the scenario out. If I go and say something to this man, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think the outcome is going to be? And then what? And for what? And did we really get what we wanted out of the situation? And then I was like, but what about me? You just gonna let this slide? So this man can do whatever he wants to say or do to another man's wife,
Right.
and pretty much disrespect me and disrespect you, and we just gonna let him get away with that?
And then you hear the language.
Yes.
The language is your wife. You're gonna let another man disrespect your wife. This is the language that we have to be careful of.
Right.
And then just do this to me.
Right.
There's a certain language, and you're not going to do anything.
Be careful.
Ego.
Yes.
We're talking about this empathy works in so many ways.
That's right.
And it's so many dynamics and parts to empathy, and then how it goes back to ego when it's dealing with you guys individually, or when it's dealing with circumstances, situations, people, places, and things.
That's it.
Ego is within empathy.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
You gotta silence that ego. And so when he asked me those questions and I could not answer them, or at one particular time I was like, I don't care. You just need to check this dude. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then he was like, and then what are you even thinking about me?
Right.
I could get hurt. I could go to jail. How is this He's like, because you gonna stand there and talk and hype me up or make the situation worse, while I'm out in the street dealing with a situation where we could be the better people, let it be, walk away from it, and know that, hey, things happen. Like, I don't necessarily believe in the whole karma per se.
Right.
What goes around comes around. But people get theirs.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it don't have to come from you reap what you sow.
Right.
Go ahead, baby.
No, exactly, because when people are doing things to you that's unjust and for no reason at all,
Right.
and you take the higher road, there's energy there. There's energy because you took the higher road, but there's also energy that goes towards the other one who decided to take the lower road. And the higher you go, if they stay in that position, the lower they go. They will reap the benefits of their actions and their thoughts, and you don't even have to put it out there. As long as you know that you are operating in these spiritual laws.
It was definitely, thank you for saying spiritual, it was definitely the more spiritual, mature way. It was such a low vibration, a low perspective of me just wanting to let this man know, oh, you did this to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? But when my husband steps into this situation, you're going to be singing a different song.
Right.
Again, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's like, no. And it took
It's-
my husband to teach me that you can't just come from the perspective of me protecting you, because there's a cost to that, and you have to count up the cost. If I go out, you got to empathize. You got to put
That's
yourself
it.
in my position of what position that's going to put me
Yeah.
in, and then what position that's going to put us in when you play the tape all the way through.
That's right. That's right. And the beauty of it is you have that balance there. Two people can't be high-headed.
No, sirree.
That's a TNT
Yes.
right there.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So one, it has to be a negative and a positive.
That's right.
Somebody have to keep the level head to get to that one that has that negativity.
Right.
And it just comes together.
Right.
Exactly.
But I had to
Right.
silence my ego, right? And look at the bigger picture and surrender to, I don't want my husband hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want my husband
Right.
in jail. I don't want no retaliation. Because
Right.
what if things went down, we won that one, but eventually people come back to retaliate, and it's this back and forth, and it escalates. People get their families involved,
That's right.
and it end up being a war.
All out war.
And all
Yeah.
over what? Because somebody said something. Think about it. Because somebody disrespected me and bruised my feelings. Because that's what it is. They didn't put their hands on me.
Right.
That's it.
They didn't steal. You know what I mean? They hurt my feelings. And so it took his wisdom, my surrender, and my wanting my marriage and my husband, and not having any repercussions of drama knocking on our door.
That's amazing that you said that, because we have experienced similarities when I said something to my husband, and it was like stirring up something, and he was so fuming. He was so angry, where I said, "No, babe, don't say anything." But I started it.
Right.
Things were resolved, but the thing is, I was putting him in danger because he was going to say something.
That's right.
How I know the outcome of that?
That's right.
That wasn't showing empathy to him
Right.
at all.
Right.
So that's powerful.
My
That's
husband now, he doesn't have to worry about me questioning if he would take up for me.
Right.
Yeah.
We're so past it. This man, like, look, but I don't have to, what's that word? Like, spark it or stir it up. No.
It's already there.
It's already there.
It's already there.
It's
Everything
my
to keep that
job,
temperature down.
as you
Right.
said, exactly like you
Right.
were saying, Vincent. It's my job to level it out. When he's positively charged, I need to be that negative charge, and vice versa.
Right.
Because we don't want to put our spouses in a situation where we are going to have to deal with the repercussions of our actions.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? And so we got to be empathetic to our spouses. And we were just coming from like a woman to a male situation, making sure that we don't put our spouses, our husbands in danger. But there's also things that men need to do to ensure that their wives are not put in any type of situation.
Right.
And we got to make sure that we have each other's back. And the way we do that to deepen our waters is to be empathetic towards one another.
Yes.
All right. This has been a good conversation. Now, next week, we are looking at the second E in deepen the waters, and that is effective communication. All right. Now, how are you going to use effective communication to deepen your sacred waters? Make sure you come back next week. All right.
Yeah.
Mwah. God bless you.